Your creativity is keeping you poor. Here's how to fix it. Creativity. Every individual on the planet has it, yet very few can use it to their advantage to lead a life of financial peace and prosperity. Why is that? Before we dive deep into figuring out the why, let's define what creativity is. In the most basic, rudimentary terms, creativity is about solving a certain problem in a certain way, right? And the method, resources, and skills you use to solve that problem determines how creative or smart you are as a person. While solving that problem may or may not involve a lot of original thought or a great deal of skill, you still would have used your gift of consciousness to get that done. Unlike animals, we're not merely creatures of habits. For better or for worse, the reason we are able to make sense of our own physical form and everything around us is because we've gained consciousness. We're self aware, capable of independent thinking and creative imagination. Using a combination of these endowments, among others, humans have made the society as we see and experience today. However, if you consider yourself to be an artist and you take being creative as a full time job, you're likely very familiar with how things work in the real world. Maybe you're a freelance designer, an artist, a writer, an aspiring musician, or you produce creative or artistic content for a living. You've likely come across times in your life when you said to yourself, why? Why am I even doing this? I make good stuff, but kind words and a pat in the back are all I get. Nobody gives me money for this. I barely have enough money to pay rent and buy food, let alone invest in myself to get better. I can't reach the people I want to, and no matter how hard I try, I never seem to get the recognition I deserve. While researching for this script, I came across this video by Jordan Peterson made by another creator in which he says that it's next to impossible for creative people to experience financial prosperity because creativity alone is very hard to monetize. That using your creativity to solve a problem is like 5% of the total work you need to do to become successful. To create a business focused around your solution, you still need the help of sales, marketing, strategy, and other things. And that is so true. Creativity alone isn't enough to get your product out there. And if there is no product out there in front of the people, how are you going to make money? Being an artist or doing any sort of ultra creative task is hard enough already with you battling your inner thoughts of constant self doubt, criticism, and generally feeling alone in your journey. So, how the hell are you supposed to get better at other things when just being who you are, existing, takes such a toll on your psyche? Well, the answer to that question is complicated. It's doable, but complicated. And like with most pursuits that are meaningful and worthy, the change that's needed to get you to the next step of your journey has to start from within by doing the inner work. Without doing the necessary inner work when you're supposed to, you are destined for failure. So, according to my own research and experiences, there are 7 problems creative people have to face when it comes to monetizing their passion. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how to overcome those problems so that you can make more money, get more recognition, and generally live a better life as a creative. The first problem is having a rigid mindset. Yes, creative people would have you believe that they're all very open minded and receptive to new advice and new experiences, but it's just not true. Not in all aspects. Because at the end of the day, creative people are people. They've likely got the same flaws, weaknesses, and biases like regular people do. One way in which creative people really shoot themselves in the foot is by believing that somehow the world revolves around them and their interests. They believe that people should buy what they're selling rather than what they want to buy. Look, it's fine if you don't want to make money from your craft, but if you do, you have to sell what people are already buying, something that has some market demand. You can't just expect to create market demand because you made an app that dog owners can use to teach their deaf and blind dog how to play the piano. That's ludicrous. If you're a musician and all you do is make music that appeals to your taste and nobody else's, guess what? Your record isn't gonna sell. If you're a writer and all you do is pick fights on Reddit, Nobody's going to see your writing and think, hey, I want to hire this user. And if you're a painter and all you draw is hentai, then nobody's going to commission you to draw something for them. Okay, maybe I'm wrong about this one, but you hear what I'm trying to say. Be flexible with your ideas and your approach towards monetizing your skills. You don't have to agree with what other people say 100% of the time, but you can still take their thoughts and feelings into consideration. Number two, the fear of selling out. Well, guess what, dude? You ain't gotta worry about that because nobody is buying your stuff anyway. You cannot sell out if you never had buyers or an audience in the first place. Selling out is something big artists have to worry about because it's actually a crappy thing to do. For those who don't know what selling out means, it means that the artist in question abandons their old fans for more money, fame, or any other form of external validation that they deem is more worthy than staying loyal to their fans. And this is not something you should worry about if you don't have neither fans nor money. If you're not rich and famous yet, now is your time to experiment, try out new things, and see what works. There's nobody judging you now or putting you on a pedestal because you aren't important enough for that. I'm sorry to say, but none of your 134 Instagram followers are one day going to go, damn, you really aren't who you used to be anymore. And if you're worried about disappointing your friends, the only people who give you a few crumbs of validation by telling you how special you are, well, trust me, they don't care as much as you think they do. Heck, the only reason they're likely showing you support by liking and commenting on your social media is because they know how annoying you can get if they don't. Number three, imposter syndrome. At this point, pretty much everybody knows what this is, so I'm going to keep it short. You're said to have imposter syndrome when you feel like a fraud or a phony despite your achievements being well deserved. And everyone, and I mean everyone, can be a victim without even realizing it. I think the first time I faced this problem was back in 2016 or 2017 when I was working as a freelance writer. Back then, I was working for a few different clients who were all great, by the way. But there was this one client who one day did something I was not prepared for. He gave me a 100% tip for a blog post I wrote for him. And I was like, what? Did he make a mistake? I just couldn't believe it. Well, it wasn't a mistake because after that, he made a habit of giving me 100% tips each and every single time I wrote for him. All my clients were always in praise of me, and I never let that get to my head. But this guy, who didn't order all that frequently, nor did he talk too much, really got to me. My imposter syndrome kicked in. I wondered if I deserved the additional money he was paying me every time because I wasn't really doing anything special for him. I wasn't working extra hard, and I sure as hell wasn't sending him any topless selfies. Then one day, what I did was I wrote a message specifically asking why he did what he was doing. And he said, my guy, you deserve much more than what you charge for your work and what I can afford to pay. So, if anything, me and all others should be paying you more, as unbelievable as it first felt the first time reading it. Slowly, it started making sense to me. Instead of feeling like I didn't deserve it, slowly I realized that maybe I was the one who was playing small, undercharging. It was somewhere around that time I thought about transitioning from being a freelancer to starting my own agency. And I did start an agency together with my friend in 2017 named Writer Shark. And it grew from a team of 2 to a team of 24 or more by late 2020. We impacted a lot of lives with this venture and made a lot of money. And as a bonus, I got to do what I always wanted: travel around the country, pick up new skills, and make great memories. So, yeah, there's a happy ending to my imposter syndrome story. And maybe yours will too if you're able to overcome it. Number four, loneliness. Another major issue that artists and other creative folks have to deal with on a daily basis is isolation and loneliness. While it's normal for every human to feel lonely once in a while, creative people are more susceptible to experiencing that feeling for prolonged periods than others because the nature of work they do often demand constant undivided attention for weeks and months at a time. And It gets to a point when they sacrifice their health, wealth, and even relationships to accomplish their goals. When you think of an eccentric genius or a mad scientist, if you will, you don't imagine a person who's well sorted, happy, and goes around touching grass and smelling flowers. You don't imagine a Jim and Pam from the office. You imagine someone mysterious, like Creed, someone who's out of his mind most of the time, with no sense of place or time. You imagine someone in a dark, unkempt room working tirelessly to bring their vision to life. That is the nature of work many creatives pursue, and it leads them down a dark path when they just can't relate to anyone else. They feel like everything apart from their own pursuit is just noise that's better muted off. I've experienced this sort of feeling a few times in my life, and I can tell you for sure that the answer is not in saying, why don't you go out and meet your friends? Why don't you talk to other people? Look, if you're feeling lonely, my best advice would be to take a step back and give yourself space to disconnect once in a while. You don't have to force yourself to mingle with others if you don't want to. If you find people who get you and add value to your life, that's great. Otherwise, take a break and get to know yourself better. Reach out to your closest friends and try and spend time with them instead of shutting yourself off. Number 5, living in the future or daydreaming. If there's one bad habit that I'm guilty of doing, it has to be this one. And I'm calling daydreaming bad because that's exactly what it is. And I know that better than anyone because I've spent weeks and months daydreaming of things that'll probably never happen. Living in the future or daydreaming is the antagonist of progress because when you let your mind take control and take you away from the present, what happens is that instead of doing the work that you should be doing, you dwell on an outcome, a highly unrealistic version of the future to give you that cheap dopamine. Positive visualization is always accompanied by consistent action. Always. If you dream about being a big YouTuber someday, you have to press the record button now and get the content out there instead of dreaming about how great your life would be when you're rich and famous. Excessive daydreaming can be a form of avoidance, preventing us from taking action and pursuing our goals. It can also lead to procrastination, causing us to miss on important deadlines and opportunities and generally fall behind on our responsibilities. Number 6, demonizing commercial success. I get it. Creatives like to think they're eccentric and people just don't get them or they're far too good for the masses. They fetishize the starving artist trope, believing themselves to be someone who's a genius but lives in poverty because other people just don't get it. What they also do is look down on their peers who are more commercially successful and make more money than them by saying, the guy sold his soul to Illuminati or Satan or whatever. Look, of course, I'm exaggerating to get my point across, but you know where I'm going with this. When you want to make money from your passion, you must find and settle on a middle ground, at least in your early years. That means you identify the work that is creatively fulfilling but doesn't pay all that well, and work that pays really well but isn't that creatively fulfilling. And then you do both of them. That way, you not only give the people what they want, but you also get to fuel your creative spirit on the side. One of the best examples of an artist who does this is one of my favorites, Kendrick Lamar, the only rapper in history, mind you, to win the Pulitzer Prize. If you've listened to his albums or dug really deep into his work, you'd already know that most of his popular songs, the radio hits if you will, aren't really all that impactful. I mean, sure, they have catchy beats and dope lyrics, but there's not a whole lot of substance. You would know that some of the biggest hits he has produced that are widely known don't match up to some of the most underrated classics. You would know that his massive hits are nowhere close to being as deep as his underrated songs are. Kendrick is not only an insanely gifted artist, but also super smart when it comes to understanding the business component of it all. That's why all his albums have both types of songs, the ones with catchy beats that the masses would sing along to, and the ones with deep lyrics that only his most loyal fans can spend hours listening, feeling, and deconstructing the stories behind the lyrics. So don't demonize commercial success. get successful, and make the system work in your favor. Number 7, refusing to learn other skills. You know how the saying goes, life is barely long enough to get good at one thing, so be careful what you get good at. But in the modern age of digital media and distribution, you really cannot bank on only one skill to make it through life, especially if you're a freelancer. That's just the reality of it. Like, how are you going to get clients if you don't know how to communicate properly? If you know nothing about web design, funnels, sales copy, or social media? To monetize your creativity online, you at least need to know how to communicate well, either through speech or written text. Even if you do sign up to a freelancing platform like Upwork or Fiverr, for instance, you still need to be able to communicate with potential clients effectively so that they trust you enough to give you their money. And if you have access to the internet, what's stopping you from learning additional skills that would help you take your main skills in front of potential customers? You can either look for free information on the internet and piece all the puzzles together, or you spend some money to take a course that teaches you whatever it is that you want to learn, step by step. Think of learning these additional skills as side quests. Like when you play a game, an RPG specifically, where you have to do these side quests to level up your character. In an RPG, you take more and more important quests, and upon completion, you get loot and XP, which you can use to become more powerful. You do this enough times, and eventually your character will be strong enough to face the end game and beat the main boss. Treat learning these additional skills as going on your own personal little side quests, which help you eventually become the person you need to be. Yeah, I know working on creative pursuits gives meaning to your life, but don't attach solely to it or make it your entire identity. Don't put yourself in a box, is what I'm saying. If you've read books on spirituality, you'd know that one of the main focus of spiritual teachings is that you must never let your ego dictate your identity or how you feel about yourself. You are so much more than who you think you are. Number 8, playing it small. Many artists and creatives play small in life due to a variety of reasons, including fear of failure, fear of criticism, self doubt, and lack of self confidence. They may struggle with imposter syndrome, feeling like they don't belong or they aren't good enough to succeed. The creative industry can be highly competitive and unpredictable, which can lead to feelings of insecurity and uncertainty. Additionally, playing small can also have a negative impact on artists' mental health. It can lead to increased level of stress, anxiety, and even depression as they may feel stuck and unfulfilled in their career and personal life. If you believe that you have a message to share to the world through your art, don't get stuck playing the solo game, aka a freelancer. If you want to grow professionally, there will come a time when you have to hire people to do the things you can't or just don't have the time to tackle yourself. Initially, taking this step might feel uncomfortable or even difficult because A, you're going to have to spend money, and B, you've never done this before. But it's something you gotta do if you want to step out of the freelancer comfort zone. Making money is not easy. If it was easy, then everyone would have it. Yeah, so that's about it for today's talk, I guess. I hope this video inspires you to reflect on your life, your goals, and probably even zoom out and see the bigger picture, in which you're a small part of the larger world that functions around you. Like, comment, subscribe. Share this with a friend if you think it's helpful. I appreciate you all for watching till the end. See ya.